In this episode of the Deeper Than Dough podcast, I sit down with Corey, the founder of Rush Cycle Fitness. We talk about the struggles with owning several gyms in California during the pandemic, which helped him realize what is important in his life. We explore his thoughts on the future of retail with creating experiences and his unique approach to entrepreneurship. Corey opens up about stepping away from the grind culture, focusing on personal development, and staying aligned with his values around health, family, and faith. We also touch on learning through pain, choosing gratitude, and how focusing on who you are matters more than what you do. Welcome to another episode of the Deeper the Dough podcast. Today, I'm excited to have Corey Spangler on the show. Corey, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
So Corey and I met a few years ago, just over the phone, and then you were in East Coast. Remind me where?
I was in Massachusetts for like 10 to 12 months, but I had a blast out there.
Okay. And then you ended up moving 20 minutes down the road from me here in Utah, and we got to go to the gym last week, have some coffee, and then hit the gym. So that was fun. Corey, can you give us a minute or two summary of your background, and then I'll hit you up with a bunch of questions.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, I think for the purpose of this podcast, I always like to touch on in about 2011, I started my own fitness business, and we opened two locations in San Diego. We were having the time of our lives, man. We were living above our location in La Jolla, and we were surfing 3 times a day, having a blast, and such good memories, man. But when we opened our second location in 2013, and it was kind of like a moment when we had to grow up and become better leaders and entrepreneurs. We kind of realized we didn't know what we were doing, to be honest. um, but yeah, man, we kind of hired some mentors and read the books. And anyways, we ended up scaling our business. We ended up choosing the franchise route as a business model. Um, we ended up opening 30 locations across the US and even some in Quebec. And so, yeah, that's a huge part of my background. And we ended up facing some troubling times with the pandemic because most of our locations
You're
are
telling me that people
in
didn't go to the
California.
gym? I lived in San Diego during
Exactly.
the pandemic, and they closed all of the gyms. And then when they reopened them, it was outdoor, like EOS. I remember they moved all their equipment outdoor under a tarp,
Yep.
and you're on the cardio machine, and they legitimately had somebody walking up and down to make sure the mask was over the nose. While you're outside doing cardio, it's
Exactly.
freaking 60 degrees because it's 7 a.m. Man, what a mess. And sorry that you were in that business during that time, right? There's nothing else you could, I mean,
Yeah.
no predicting. It's just, here's a bunch of shit, deal with it. So tell me, tell me what happened from there.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit it right on the head, man. Because we had locations that were in states like Texas and Florida, for example, that shut down for approximately 3 weeks, but then it was kind of sort of business as usual. But the majority of our locations in California, and for 15 consecutive months, they couldn't do normal indoor workouts, to your point. And so we had to get pretty creative and rent out the bikes and do outdoor workouts. But as you can imagine, for those 15 consecutive months, we weren't able to collect the typical royalty income that we were used
Yep.
to. Um, so it was tough, man. We had to
I'm
get
sure
really creative, like I said. What's that?
you also couldn't sell franchises. I imagine nobody was trying to buy a gym franchise during COVID because you have two main sources of revenue, your royalties and your franchise fees.
Exactly.
And one was greatly reduced and the other one was cut off completely.
Exactly, exactly. Anyone that was in the pipeline, which we obviously had people that were like about to sign, as soon as the pandemic hit, they were like, whoa, 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 we're out of here. We need to wait till the economy settles down and we get more clarity on what's going on here.
Yeah. And then kind of walk me through the when did you officially close up shop with Rush and what have you been doing since?
Yeah, man. So we ended up raising some more money at the end of 2020 because, when you own a business, you know this, it's your baby and you will literally do whatever it takes to succeed and to achieve your desired outcomes. So we were working around the clock, getting mentors involved, raised more money. But it turned out in August of 2021, we had to look in the mirror and uh, I actually personally did a Zoom call with every single franchise owner and let them know that we were cutting them loose and terminating their franchise agreement. And, to be honest, we could have been Sharky business owners and told them that they had to pay us maybe 100 grand, for example, each to keep the brand name on the wall. But everyone had been affected by this time in the fitness industry. So we decided, you know what, let's just allow them to keep the brand name and just to keep rocking and rolling.
I love
Um,
that. And then what brought you out here to Utah?
Yeah, so I swallowed my pride and started looking for new opportunities. I was doing some consulting gigs, which I had a blast with, but during that time, I got connected with this company out here in Utah that is absolutely phenomenal. It's a company where it's a brick and mortar traditional retail, but you know how we've always heard that the future of retail is experiences. Well, that's exactly what this brand is. So if you think of like a ceramic studio or a painting with a twist studio, for example, that you would go to for maybe like a family friend get together, it's
Mhm.
kind of like that, but you actually make your own jewelry from scratch with sterling silver and semi-precious gemstones. So, of course, we're biased, but we believe that there's a little bit more staying power with a piece of jewelry that you make from sterling silver, like I said. And, it's got some imperfections in it because you made it yourself, but it's something that you're proud of. And it's something that you'll show off when you're out on the town and all those things. So, yeah, man, I, I serve them in the capacity of the chief operating officer. And over this last 2 years, we've been able to double our revenues, open 5 more locations, and we recently signed a master franchise agreement in Canada so that we can expand into that market as well. So I've had a blast over here.
Talk to me the difference between what are the pros and cons on doing your own thing and having all of the pressure, all of the downside, and all of the upside on you versus helping someone else grow and making a decent income doing so. Because I'm like, man, I keep going for I want it all. I want all the risk. I want all the reward. And the more I go down that path, I'm just like, I don't know if this is for me. I mean, is this sustainable? It's too stressful. But talk to me the difference between those two.
Yeah, once you're an entrepreneur, you're always an entrepreneur, right? So it's like you almost can't take that out of me. So it doesn't
Hmm.
matter if I'm the owner or not. My mindset is that I'm given 120%. I'm thinking about it. I'm seeking mentors and all of those things. But man, I can only speak for myself, but the amount of stress that I went through during the pandemic with Rush Cycle and the way that things shook out, I would tell you that I am a little bit more risk adverse right now, to be honest. And I guess to answer your question better is it's nice to have guaranteed income without having to worry about cash flow literally every single day, right?
Yeah.
When you're not the owner. So, you know, would I get back into an entrepreneurship endeavor and be an owner again? Yes, and I think that's kind of coming sooner than later. But to be honest with you, been kind of enjoying the
Yeah.
seat that I'm in right now.
And you get to express, for me, entrepreneurship is exciting because it's like, here's a problem and I'm going to solve it. But that didn't work. So I'm going to try this, but that didn't work. So, and then I found this person who then solved it.
Yes.
And that's fun. So I'm imagining your role right now is you get a lot of the fun aspects of the owning the business, but you don't have all the, okay, well, what if cash flow, like, are we going to make payroll this month? And if we don't, what do we do? Now you have the risk of, okay, maybe I don't get paid, but you don't have the risk of my company goes bankrupt, which typically for small businesses means you personally go bankrupt. And I'm sure that's a very big difference. I do when we want to rewind to something that you probably told me, but I didn't remember until you just told me again. You had 2 locations in San Diego and you said you were surfing 3 times a week and you were living above a location. What
Yep.
caused you to want to expand from there, rather than just stick
I
with your
mean,
two
it just
locations?
Yeah, it's always funny. I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs look back at that because it's always the early days when it was like the good old days, for
Yeah.
example, is how we kind of talk about it, where we kind of had no worries. It felt like at the time our problems are really small. And the rents, just for an example, the rents on the leases that we had committed to were really low. And we were very risk adverse at the time because it was like a pilot program, if you will. But just like you and me and the rest of us crazy entrepreneurs out there, we get the itch to expand and challenge ourselves. And I think it's kind of um, challenging ourselves to prove it to ourselves that we can expand, that we are capable of more, that we do have an aptitude to serve more people and help more people. So it's kind of funny when you look back because, like I said, you wonder if you should have kept it simple. But I don't know. I think there's just a part of us that wants to make progress towards a bigger goal and just to double down. And it's a lot of fun, and that's where you really get out of your comfort zone, and that's where all the growth happens. So I don't regret a thing.
Okay, I like that. I'm gonna go challenge you a little bit on it, but keep in mind I don't know anything. So, um, you talked about the itch, right? And so the question in my mind is the itch worth the effort to scratch it? And in my experience so far, and the more I dive into it, the more I'm looking at it is actually no, because it's like I do want to progress and I do want to serve more people because I can make a bigger difference. But why? Like, why am I not just content serving less people? And I think that's the problem, at least that I'm trying to attack, is not if I serve more people, I'll feel better, but why do I feel that I need to serve more people to feel better? And kind of angling on that because I'm like, man, if I could go back and just sell solar of 20 hours a week and make 500,000 a year, I'm like, man, that was really cool. But I had this itch to go create something, and then I created it, and then I'm like, was it worth it? I don't know. I don't know. Looking at the stress, no. Looking at the growth, yes. So just
Yeah.
some ideas.
No, I mean, just to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, I think it's like I think my biggest leverage point now in life is that I have gone through an extreme stress event because it actually caused me to look in the mirror and look inward. And I ended up kind of finding that I was putting too much of my time, energy, and focus into my career pillar of my life, if you will.
Yeah,
And so, to your point, man, it's like, what are we really doing here? Why are we trying to make progress on something that's actually kind of maybe moving us in the wrong direction, that maybe doesn't align with my family and my actual goals and vision we have for our life and day to day. And so, something that I've gotten really addicted to with studying personal development and looking inward is just to focus on other things too, such as like my health, my sleep schedule, my nutrition, my water intake, hanging out with friends, getting rid of toxic friends, spending enough time with family, having a faith practice, working on my personal finances. So all these things, man, I think I admittedly had kind of like thrown to the wayside because I was just kind of drunk and addicted to just growth in my career for the sake of growth, to your point. And so I think I've been able this last few years to have a little bit more balance, and it's caused me to have more fulfillment, to be honest, with just being more well balanced internally.
I love that. And I love the answer to the question. You're like, okay, yes, I see where you're coming from, that the more and more, but I had to have that for the weight to be crushing enough for me to say there's no other option, because that's what I went through. And my last guest that I just got off, he went through the same thing because I asked him the same. And it's like, yes, it was required because I heard a story, and it was somebody walks into a gas station, and outside on the porch of the gas station, there's a dog, and it's yelping, it's just like, or whimpering, whatever. And the next day comes back, the dog's doing the same thing. And the next day, the dog's just very uncomfortable, whimpering, and he says to the finally says to the owner of the convenience store, what's wrong with that dog? And he's like, oh, the dog's laying down on the nail. I'm like, why doesn't the dog move? Well, it doesn't hurt him bad enough. It hurts, but not bad enough to actually
Yep.
cause a change. So then I'm like,
Yep.
I think that's what happens in life. Like, yes, I know I need to sharpen the saw, and yes, I know I need to better my relationships and my physical health and my mental health and all that. But if it doesn't hurt bad enough, then you just keep going with
Yeah.
it, because you're like, I'm getting by. So, anyways, I thought I really like the answer to that question.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate, man. And once again, I can only speak for myself, but I do read books and autobiographies and learn from mentors so I can go further faster and shorten the learning curve. However, I still have a flaw where I need to experience things myself sometimes and fail and
Yep.
realize like, oh, I what they wrote in that book is true. Why didn't I just listen, you know?
Yes. I have our first advisor. He's been absolutely amazing. And he always says it's this snowflake effect or something. Every snowflake is
Okay.
unique. So he says to all entrepreneurs, he's like, this is how you run the business. You could do whatever you want, but it's not going to work. Like you're not a snowflake. He'd always say, you're not a snowflake. Like these things apply, they're general business. But so many of us, because I fall in the same boat, and I did it like 2 or 3 times. And then I went back to him and was like, okay, I'm just going to listen to you for now on, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because he told me
Yep.
what to do. I didn't do it. I thought I was
Yep.
special. I thought I could get around it. I was more creative than everybody else. Turns out I wasn't. Um, and then I fell back. I'm like, okay, now I do need to trust it. But there is the balance of learning from others versus I need to learn from myself because it doesn't hurt bad enough yet. I need to experience the hurt.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Exactly, man.
so the two locations. Uh, I want to like talk to me a little bit more about the lifestyle during that because it sounds like you're going surfing all the time. Like, was it very low stress? And was the trigger to go for more? Was it the financial or is it more the fulfillment to expand from two locations?
Gosh, I probably have a pretty immature answer to that because at the time I was 24, and I think in the Silicon Valley kind of entrepreneur content I was consuming every day was talking to like idolizing like grind culture, like work all day, grow just to grow. And so I think, just to be honest, I got kind of wrapped up in, you know, let's just blow this thing up as big as it can go because that's what the culture is that I was in. And so I didn't necessarily have a knowledge in my head that growing would make the business more stressful and make me have bigger problems and more responsibility. I just thought I was going to be having a blast and I would have more money at the same time, you know?
Man, it's just that's what we do. Because I like as soon as I heard that, I'm like, man, that sounds like a good gig. But you don't know it's a good gig till you go experience the other, until it hurts bad enough. Um, I want to ask,
Well, I know.
so oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, I feel like my definition of entrepreneurship has almost changed over time with kind of the stress I went through the pandemic because entrepreneurship, my current definition of it, isn't necessarily owning some enterprise company that's massive. It's being creative in the way that you could stack up different incomes and add value in different ways, and adding value in ways and being compensated for it, of course, in a fashion that doesn't necessarily eat up all of your time that you would rather spend with your family and doing what you love with your hobbies and everything like that. So, I think over this last, couple of years, but then I think I'm getting more intelligent with it every day and still growing, is just, you know, going to, on one side of the spectrum is just going to work for someone, clocking in 9 to 5, scrolling on your phone during work instead of actually working. whereas the other side of the spectrum is entrepreneurship. But I don't think it has to be owner of an enterprise. I think it could be consulting, um, adding value in different ways, and maybe there's some seasons where you have like three smaller gigs, and then there's some seasons where you have one main thing. But I don't think we have to always pursue something that's going to take up 80 hours of our week every week, you know?
And I would say don't do that. That's my advice to anybody. It's like,
Yeah,
do you what's the end goal? Well, a bigger business, more
exactly.
clout, more recognition, better brand, bigger sales,
But
more revenue.
why?
But why? Because I want to
Yeah.
feel better every day. Okay, do you think
Yep.
that 80 hours a week working to maybe make money, and when most businesses fail, is the correct strategy on feeling better? Or how about you just work 40 hours and you spend, imagine spending 40 hours on how do I maximize my mental health, my energy, and my mood, and treat that as
Exactly,
the
man.
problem. And then it's like,
Yes.
anyways, that that's my advice. That's what I've been doing to myself and just trying everything. Because there's,
I love it.
you know how many supplements, how many medications, how many physical different exercises and things you can do to increase energy, increase mood, um, decrease stress. There's thousands. And how many have we tried?
Yeah.
Almost none. Because even though that's our priority is feeling better, because we haven't really defined it, it's we make our priority work because we think that that's gonna get us there. But anyways, I think the entrepreneurship or an entrepreneur, I think that's the word. Anyways, in if you're an entrepreneur inside of another business and in sales roles, especially door to door, it's straight commission. If you're a manager, that's also straight
Yep.
commission. You recruit your own people, you train them. If they sell, you get commissions. You are running your own business. And I like that you're like,
Yes.
I'm just going to change my definition because guess what? You get to choose anything. Like everything in the world is just somebody made it up, right? Somebody made up the
Exactly.
definition of entrepreneurship. Why do you have to take theirs? You have the ability to take your own, and when you do take your own, now you're changing your expectation. And I do think that your mood and happiness levels come down to expectation versus reality. So let's change our
Yeah.
expectation to match our reality rather than trying to bring the reality up to match our expectation.
Absolutely, man. Totally agree with all of that. Absolutely.
Um, so a lot of times the hardest times in our lives is when we learn the most. And I think that is true. I don't know if it has to be true, but it seems to be true so far. So you having a
For most of
company,
us.
you grew a nationwide company, 30 plus or 30 locations, multinational, actually, like that's huge, but it didn't work out. You moved into consulting and then also got, hired to do all the operations for the gem studio. Remind me the name?
Yeah, Gem Studio.
Okay, the gym studio. So tell me, did the experience of you growing a brand, a national brand, a multinational brand for a decade or so help and the fact that it went under, didn't work out, did that help or hurt you as you were getting consulting clients and getting the job at the gym studio?
Oh, helped me so much because I have an intimate understanding of the hero's journey, quote unquote, where I've had a mentor help me. And I know what that meant to me and how it gave me peace of mind that someone stood where I currently stand, had overcome the obstacles that I am struggling with, was able to answer the questions that I had at the time, and was able to just kind of blow through those obstacles with their help. And so now I get to be able to put on that mentor hat, and I get to be able to return the favor, so to speak, which is the other side of the hero's journey, where I'm basically able to serve people that are struggling with things that I have struggled with in the past. And I either got mentorship on or figured out somehow, some way. And so, whether it be consulting or joining a team, I'm looking for groups and individuals that, have a big, exciting problem to solve and have a just deep desire to grow and tackle the problems that are in front of them. And so I get a lot of, fulfillment and gratification from being able to help people. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I love that. And I love the answer. Absolutely help me, which is crazy because I'd imagine I'm going to ask you the question. You're going through the bankruptcy process. Are you thinking in your head, wow, the fact that I built this company and I overcame so many challenges, but then this happened and I'm going to go bankrupt, but it's still okay because it's actually going to help me get more clients and get more job opportunities in the future. Did that go through your mind during the bankruptcy, or was it just panic, stress, depression, all that other shit?
Uh, at the time, it was pure chaos. I thought my life was over. My pride had been shot down. And I was just kind of soaking in uncertainty and wondering, what do I do tomorrow? How am I going to have money to pay my basic bills? And so, fortunately, by the way, we were able to avoid scary things like bankruptcy and those things
Oh,
because
you
we
guys didn't
did
go through a
things
bankruptcy.
yeah, so we were able to be proactive enough
Oh, awesome.
to turn off the lights before we ran out of money, which is something that I'm really glad that we did. However, it was basically like we did go bankrupt,
Yeah.
right? And so, as far as my mindset at the time, and I literally, man, I'll just be honest with you, and it sounds like I'm joking, but at the time, I felt like I had to make a choice. It was either I'm just going to throw my life away and become alcoholic because I can't deal with this stress, or I'm going to face the man in the mirror and become the person I need to become to be able to deal with stress like this in the future. Because, knock on wood, I'll never have to deal with that type of event again, of course.
Yeah.
But there's going to be other things in my life, man, like where if a loved one gets sick, or something in the economy happens, or these things will happen, and I need to be a better version of myself to be able to handle those things more even keel, more calmly, more with a level head and with more wisdom. And so, anyways, to answer your question, at the time, no, I didn't have that kind of, global perspective. But as I looked inward and did the self work over the next few months, it was definitely something that I was able to uncover and start to choose. It was a choice. I had to
Mhm.
choose to be thankful for that event, to come to peace with it, and start to journal on all of the positive outcomes. And so, yeah, man, I kind of think now of one of my biggest assets is that I have gone through that extreme emotional event. And,
And I'm
I
sure,
think sometimes you can tell that people haven't gone through something like that. And you're like, man, you almost need to lose it to like become that more mature version of yourself, you know?
you have to be sitting on three nails because one nail isn't enough. And then three nails, you're like, okay, I'm going to get my shit together. But, and that's one of the
Exactly.
questions I often ask in the podcast, like, what is the hardest time that you've ever experienced in your life? What did you learn from it? And it's typically the hardest time you learn the one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable, like life lessons and changes. And what I heard you say is using the word becoming and being rather than doing, right? I'm focusing on who I'm becoming and what person I
Yeah.
am rather than what I'm doing every single day or what my title, but like, who am I? How do I manage stress? How do I view life? And I think that's amazing because hindsight's always 2020. It's like, okay, I look back and where I've grown the most personally have been the most stressful times that were like just killer.
Yep.
So what advice do you have to someone who's in the thick of things? They're going through their hard time right now, and what do you tell them to say, hey, you're going to get value, hang in there, whatever? What advice do you have to that person?
Gosh, it's almost hard for that person probably to even listen during the most stressful part of it, right? Because it's so cloudy in their head. But man, my advice is you need to start journaling, and you need to write down 2 times a day at least what's important to you. And it can't only be career. It has to be your social life with your best friends. It has to be with your significant other. It has to be with maybe a faith practice. It has to be with your health. You have to write down these major pillars of your life and start to it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to jot down what kind of life do you want to experience. And that was so helpful for me. And actually, something else, Bennett, is one of the things that Tony Robbins recommends is that throughout a week, you should make note of all the like negative emotions that you experience, and then also the positive emotions that you experience, and then start to tie which things you're doing or things that happened to you that evoked those emotions. And then you can start to then actually create a daily routine with the actions that bring you the positive emotions. And so there's kind of like this reverse engineering and kind of stacking the decks in your favor, where you can start to do things that aren't all career focused, but feed your soul actually. And so that's something that's been, I would recommend to everybody.
Love that. There's the Alice in Wonderland, which path do you want to take? And it's like, or
Yep.
which path should I take? Well, where are you going? I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter, like do whatever
Yep.
you want. And that's where we're at typically in life. Again, another person I spoke with today, I was like, would you say that 90% of people, of Americans have never done that activity? Whether it's here's my, and we were talking a little bit different, but pretty similar. Here's the five buckets: faith, fitness, family, whatever those are. What are most important? And then look at your calendar and see how you spend your time. And you're going to see that, half of your time is spent on your career, but that's third down your list. You're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But you don't know because you don't know where you're going because you haven't defined that. So I love that you're saying journal, not just positive, but negative. And I recently did this 2 months ago. I went to Mexico for a few weeks and I'm away from the business, whatever, and you don't have great service and it's 100 degrees every day. It's the desert. I'm not in Cancun. And I was getting a lot more anxiety. And then I started tallying up, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay attention to the thought that I had. The thought comes in, I'm like, I'm feeling anxious. And I'm like, okay, well, what was my last thought? And then I categorized them and I
Yep.
started like tallying up my thoughts. And it was very beneficial because, and
Nice.
then I realized for whatever reason, I played this game in my head that I'm narrating my own life and justifying all my decisions. Who the hell am I justifying them to? I don't know. But I didn't even know that that was causing the anxiety and the discomfort until I just took 2 days to tally up my thoughts. And then I went with those thoughts to the therapist with an actual problem. And now I think I could solve it. Even though I've been seeing a therapist for years, I didn't tally up my thoughts. So I
Yep.
absolutely love, love that from that advice.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and I think
Ah,
one of the reasons why we haven't looked inward and we don't know what we personally want is because it's just our culture. Like we're either trying to make other people keeping up with the Joneses and being popular and caring what other people think of us. And then the other thing is just kind of like good old fashioned consumerism and just we get all these marketing messages telling us what we should do to be cool or pretty or successful. And so we end up kind of adopting all of these ideals and values from the media and our circle of friends or the group think in like the area that we live in. And sometimes it's unfortunate people will go their whole lives without looking inward and journaling that out and just being able to identify what actually would make them happy and what their ideal outcomes for their life and then actually taking action on it, right?
yeah. And a lot of times it's like, well, when am I going to do it? Because I need to do it when I'm the most stressed, and I'm the most stressed when my business is on fire. And when my business is on fire, that means I have to work more. And then, but it's just a downward spiral, and it is
Yeah,
scary to like step back. You're like, no, I'm just going to do it anyway, and realize that my body is
yeah,
physically safe. I need to train my nervous system to stop flipping out because a lion's not going to eat me, and there's no reason that my heart rate should be this high, and focusing on that. So, anyways, I do think it does stem from there's just not time to look inward because it's go, 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 go do the next thing, go do the next thing, go do the next thing. And
Yeah.
if you just achieve more, everything will be solved. And that is just
Yeah.
not true from anything that I've seen. So, last question for you, Corey. Is there a life philosophy or mindset that you turn to that has helped you get through stressful, depressive, anxious times?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of what I am control of and what I'm not in control of. And so I think a philosophy that I always recommend to people is to focus on the controllables. What in your life can you actually control? Because if you try to like control and get emotionally wrapped up in what's happening in the media or with the presidential election, for example, or the economy, or what your neighbor is doing, or what your competitors are doing, like, of course, you're gonna like pay attention to these things so that you can be aware and being able to speak to these things, of course. But at the end of the day, you just need to control. I'm sorry, you need to focus on what you can control. Because I think a lot of people end up getting so wrapped up in the emotionally reacting to things they can't control that they never actually take the time to look themselves in the mirror and control those things. And that's where the true power is. We can have a good base and we can weather any storm. We just got to work at it every day.
Yeah. There are so many distractions. I mean, with the election right now, you brought that up, and I see Facebook post every day saying democracy is going to end if Trump wins. Democracy is going to end if Kamala wins. I'm just like, what do
Yeah.
you? The
Yep.
American, everybody's been saying that every 4 years forever. Do you guys not?
Yep.
Have you guys not caught up on the pattern yet? Like, just ignore that bullshit. Stop.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's it's crazy. I love
Exactly.
that philosophy. That is my number one philosophy. I'm a little bit more of an extremist. I say there is no control because I can't control my thoughts and just go with the flow.
Yep.
Um, but that is the most thing. Like I don't control the election. My vote in Utah doesn't matter. Anyway, should I be an active citizen? I don't know. I'm not going to deal with it. Let's just focus on things right here around me. So I love that, Corey. I really appreciate the time and the advice. And what a credible journey. How do our guests get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can hit me up on LinkedIn. It'll be in the show notes. But yeah, if anyone has any questions or they have a problem they're trying to solve, or they want to talk about life and as it relates to personal development, please reach out and let's talk about it.
I will recommend that because I've known Corey for a little while now, and all of my interactions have been, I leave feeling happier. So you're doing something right. Thank you, Corey.
Thanks, man.